Before working with Bill, the camera followed me to another paddock where I needed to catch one of my horses. This is one of the 3-year-olds I've been riding. Today she was laying down, but whether they're resting or standing at the round bell feeder, my horses always leave what they're doing and come to me. That isn't because I've taught them to be caught. It's because every lesson we've done has strengthened our relationship. Catching a horse isn't a lesson, it's the result of trust, understanding, and motivation. Now let's go meet Bill. This is the first time I've ever tried catching Bill out in a field, so I want to establish a clear pattern that he'll remember for the rest of his life, especially on the days he doesn't want to be caught. I'm only interested in one horse, Bill, the sorrel with the blaze face, flaxen mane and tail. The rest of the herd is simply part of the environment. As I begin my approach, the horses drift to the right. Instead of following them, I adjust my angle and quietly direct the movement back to the left. The first conversation isn't about catching Bill, it's about establishing a direction. Once Bill commits to the left, I square up to him, back away, let everything settle, and begin another approach. Notice that I stop as soon as I see the lead black horse thinking about moving. All those horses are wild, and energy ripples through the herd. If I keep walking after I see that first thought, the pressure keeps building until the entire herd explodes. Learning to feel that bubble is one of the most important skills a horseman can develop. I'm not trying to see how close I can get. I'm trying to stay right on the edge where they're still able to think. Bill continues challenging the direction, and then he begins challenging the turn. That's where I ask for an outside turn. I've already taught him that lesson in the round pen. So now I'm simply asking him the same question in a much bigger classroom. Consistency is what makes communication believable. A few moments later, the entire herd leaves to the left, but Bill makes another decision. He breaks away and tries to escape to the right. In a field this size, I don't try to outrun him. I simply direct the angle of my beam well out in front of his nose. By controlling the space he's about to enter, instead of chasing where he is, I can quietly influence his direction and send him back to the left. That first motivation teaches Bill that I can consistently influence his direction. Once that conversation is settled, I immediately soften and go back to the approach and retreat. Now the lesson becomes much more subtle. Everything I do is timed to that movement of Bill's eye, ears, neck, and feet. At first, every time Bill looks like he's about to leave, I back away. The instant I stop his thought of leaving, he decides to stay. I'm teaching him that he doesn't have to leave to make the pressure go away. Once I know I've got a hold of his mind, I change the conversation. Now when Bill looks away, I step forward. When he looks back at me, I back away. That slight change is important because his thought process has changed. At first, he wanted to leave because I was getting too close. Now he's learned that looking at me controlled my movement, so he begins to look at me to keep me from getting closer. By stepping forward when he looks away and backing away when he looks at me, I'm rewarding his attention instead of his avoidance. Every movement I make is an answer to something Bill has just told me. That's what keeps the conversation alive. Little by little, that conversation allows me to close the distance until I'm standing within 10 feet. Trying to catch him or put a halter on him now would only undo the confidence we've built. So instead of asking for too much, I end the lesson there, gather the herd into the round pen, and continue the conversation in a smaller environment where Bill has the best chance to succeed.
Okay, so this lesson is handling fear. So I find the easiest way to start that lesson is with a lunge whip, standing at the back of the pen, and just teach him to handle out of the blue, hard, fast pressure. So the key is to keep that pressure on until I want to startle him. A lot of times people want to go so subtle with the pressure that they don't scare him too bad. And then once he can handle a little bit of pressure, he can handle more. And that's not teaching a horse how to handle fear. That's desensitizing them to whatever it is you're using to desensitize to him. So I counted out 1,002, 1,003, 1,004. So teaching him how to handle fear is tapping in to his survival instincts. We need to add high enough pressure that he is genuinely afraid, and he only has two options from fear: fight or flight. So when he goes into runaway mode, the pressure stays on, but when he goes into fight mode, which is stop his feet, he gets rewarded after 4 seconds. So we teach him to freeze and handle the fear long enough until we tell him to go. So he waits for guidance. If we tell him to go under a fearful situation, he will sure enough go. But when something startles him out of the blue, we recondition their thought process to stand still. So I just moved up 1 step and I'll start again. So this is the 3rd time I've done this lesson with him. The third day, and I only do it once a day. Like, there's no sense doing it more than once a day. And the lesson will be completed when he continues to stand for 4 seconds every time I quit, and I can continue to step towards him, 1 step at a time. So I'm teaching him that the pressure is progressive, gets closer to him, and that it's not going to stop until and it's out of the blue. So he's not allowed to go behind my shoulder here. So it's out of the blue pressure that stays rhythmic, and it doesn't stop. The pressure don't stop until 4 seconds after he stops his feet. And you can see how fast that's going to work. So in 2003. So he didn't make the 4 count. That's another common mistake I find people make, because he's testing my my length of time. So I'm going to go longer this time. 2004, 2005, and then stop. If I'm in the wrong frame of mind, I think mindset is real important here. If I'm in the wrong frame of mind, I will always make all the mistakes I find people do, and that's not go very hard with your pressure because you don't want to scare him, and then quit as soon as he stops his feet. So here we go again. You can see by hanging in there that time, he never moved at all that time, and repetition over time, not all in one day, but a little bit every day, is where we recondition him from and using different props. Here I go again out of the blue. So you can see the startle effect is there, and I'm going to keep working on that until when I startle him, he freezes. Right now, when I startle him, he's still in the runaway evasion. So all I got to do is recondition him so he goes into fight. And they won't go into fight until they come to a realization and a really secure decision that running's not working. So I'm going to take another step closer. The closer I get up the pin, the more important it is that I have to protect my shoulder line. So he's not allowed to go that way past my shoulder line behind me or this way behind me. Here we go. Now he's getting pretty solid about that. You can see when he starts moving again, I'll just start again. I'm just going to protect each shoulder line, and I don't step over there until he gets close to it. Right? You can see him creep right there. So he creeped over it, and I step right back where I was. I only take 1 step to stop him, and then right back to where I was. Because they won't settle in and stop when you start getting closer to them like this. They won't settle out there and stop if they think there's an exit. Because as I get closer up this round pin, he thinks he can go behind me and get out of the pressure. They got to try that. And if he's able to, and now he's going to try this side, right? There. And then right back again. But once he tries, there. And then right back where I was. And then right, there we go. So it's important that I hold my ground and stop him from going back. There's very few lessons that I have where I force them to do stuff, but that is definitely a force. So he can't go behind me, and he can't go behind me on that side. I'll take 1 more step closer out of the blue. Let him think about that side. He changed his mind. Hold it. And I think I'm a little bit more halfway, so I'm not going to go any closer. I don't like to go any closer with the whip. Then I'll just, out of the blue, try again. So he didn't move his feet from that. Try this one. More to represent a lariat or rope. And then call that one quits. Okay, next I'm going to use the flag. Same concept. This is the first time with the flag with him. So I'll just go back and forth with the flag. 1003, 1004. Take a step up. 1003, 1004. And you'll know when your horse gets really solid because you won't be able to startle him. And he will never stop his feet if he feels you're not holding the pressure on until he stops his feet. Like if he feels you're going to back off and he'll stop, he will always wait to back off. And then when something real happens in the real world, pressure don't back off, he's going to lose his mind again. So you'll know when it's working because your horse will only flinch and just grab ground. You know, I call it grabbing ground, where their legs spread out and they don't take a step. Again here, well, you can see he's pretty solid. Step closer. And it's just a reconditioning. I do one lesson until it's to the end, and I have an end game for every lesson. I find that really makes things really easy for me to know how long to stay in that lesson. And it made it easy for me to teach people, because I find that's what happens a lot of times is people only learn 1 or 2 lessons if they go to a clinic or whatever and they're working on a lesson and they want to perfect it by doing it over and over again. And it really takes the try out of your horse. So that one was pretty quick. I'm going to go right into the rope. So swing it. He's good with that. I've roped him quite a bit. Take a step forward. Take a step forward. Take a step forward. I'm going through it pretty fast because he's not showing any signs of it. Now I'm just going to rope his bum. And I love that he don't make a move. So I haven't done a lot of roping and throwing on him when I didn't start talking to him with it in a way. So I'm just going to leave that rope just dangle right there. And I'm going to start the approach again where I left off out in the field. Okay, so I got my halter here. I'm going to approach this side. This side is a different side than I was working on out in the field. And this is more about building confidence and motivating him. You know, I was saying what I was doing out in the field, it's creating a pattern that he could read, so that I can motivate him when he's, you know, and reward him when he's doing better, and motivate him when I lose progression. So part of the building confidence to the approach is angle. Like I'm very clear, as I talked about before, the angle that I'm putting my belly button is right to his cheek. And it's 1 step at a time, 1 step back. Then 2 steps, and then 2 steps back. And then once I get closer, I'm going to start engaging in him. And I'll talk about that later when I get there. 3 steps, 3 steps back. It's just like I was doing in the field, you know, going back and forward with a purpose. So I want to do this enough that he really counts on me stopping. So the only reason he's letting me go forward is because he's expecting me to stop and back away again. So I'm adding the pressure, taking it away, adding the pressure and taking it away, approach and retreat. So it's a little bit on the line of the same thing that I was doing with the flag, right? So except for the flag is the pressure on until he stops his feet. Anything that teaches him to handle fear is progressive like that. So you can see where I drew the line. I'm just going to step back up, really saunter and look down, take 1 step past that line and draw a new line. And, you know, sometimes I'll turn and hang out with my back towards him just so he knows I'm not always threatening. Okay, I'm just gonna walk away again. And I like to sometimes give him a big release, so I walk way back here. You don't want to be lazy about walking way back away from him. So I'll just stay on this angle here. And he should let me get one step closer, right? So one step closer right there. Once I'm drawing these lines, I can see where I'm at with my approach, so that I want to, these lines tell me, and patterns tell me when it's time to push him, to motivate him. So if I've got to this line right here, this is the first time I've got there, and I back away, and then I get right here and he starts to move, I'm further away than I was the time before. So that is always a green light to start to push him. And I'm always working in patterns. So I can see him thinking about moving, but he's holding, get one step closer. And because he's nodding his head right there, I'm not taking big steps past, and the closer I get, the smaller increments I will work on. Like I'll go forward in smaller increments. So that's what I mean about engaging with him. When he looked at me, I backed away. When he looks away, I'll go a little closer. And then I got a new line right here. So I've already taken that distance. I'll just turn my back to give him a chill. I've taken that distance from there to here to teach him the pattern that I'm going to stop and back away. Now the new pattern I'm going to teach him is when he looks away, just like in the field, that's going to be the reason that I start another step. So if I face him, you can see he's a little flinchy, so I'm going to move my arms around a little bit here. And you can see he's flinching, but he's holding. And when he looks at me, just back away like that. Then when he looks away, I can take another step closer. And now I've got a new step right here, a new distance. And then I can, move my arm around again, take my hat off. These are kind of things that really bothers him, just because little movement changes everything. He questions every single thing I do. And I'm just waiting for him to do something for me to back away, like that. And then when he looks away, go up there again. Just a little bit closer. I got a new line. Now I've progressed 3 steps here now. So I'm again looking for him to give me a signal to go back away from him again. And I'm just reading the play. There we go. Just reading the play by how tense he is when he stands there looking at his eye. How much he's flinching, how long it takes for him to look back at me. Those are all patterns that I'm reading him by. Because, does he lick and chew when I walk away, and give him that bit of a break so I can start new again, right? So now he just straightened up again. He just cocked one leg. I'm just going to saunter up there again and see if I can get to that next step. I can see all my lines. I can see the very last line. I'm going to just take one step past it and stop. Now, when he moved, now I'm going to adjust my beam and start to push him this way. So just get him on that feel, and I'm going to push him right back up where he was. See if I can stop him right there. The reason I let him stop right there is because he put his nose down to the ground. So I just pivot to him, back away again. And I'm going to turn and come get on a new line over here. Hopefully you can see that line as well. And just drop my head and go to him again.
He kept leaving before I could touch him, so I increased the motivation. 1 circle, then 2, then 4. My rope fell off, so I roped him around the neck. The energy of swinging the rope made it easy to motivate him into doing the final 8 circles.
As they start reading the pattern of when he leaves, I put him to work. And then each time he leaves, the workload ups a little bit so that there's no limit to that workload. That's the first thing I got to teach him is I'm going to send him. The next thing I got to teach him is that there's no end to the workload, no end to the sensitivity. And that all goes hand in hand. If I can continue to make him more and more sensitive, then I can continue sending him longer and longer.
The moment he makes any improvement, everything resets. The pressure drops right back to almost nothing, and he earns another opportunity to make a better decision. If he leaves again, we simply start over, 1 circle, 2, 4, 8, and so on. The timing of those motivational circles is what builds a foundation that lasts a lifetime. Eventually, you don't need the circles anymore. The moment I rotate my shoulders and lift my hand, Bill remembers this entire conversation. That, paired with clear communication through every lesson, is what builds a foundation of leadership that lasts a lifetime. Creating soft, safe, willing performance horses for my grandkids. I know this lesson was long, but hopefully it was a blessing to you. If you want to learn more about the psychology behind these lessons, grab the free leadership guide in the link below.